announce new reciprocal tariffs Thursday. Details remain unknown. Eurozone industrial production falls 1.1% in December. And Nissan and Honda end $60 billion merger talks as Nissan rejects subsidiary status. Welcome to the Qnews Economic Bulletin, where we bring you the latest developments shaping the global economy. From key market trends and financial updates to regional economic highlights and forecasts, we provide essential news and analysis to keep you informed. Welcome back. We start off with the United States as President Donald Trump is set to announce new reciprocal tariffs on Thursday, but has not yet provided specifics on the plan. In a social media post, he called it the big one and will reveal details at a press conference scheduled for 18 GMT. The announcement comes just hours before Indian Prime Minister's White House visit. India imposes the highest tariffs on U.S. exports among major trading partners. Trump has already imposed 10% tariffs on Chinese goods, with steel and aluminum tariffs set to take effect on March 12. Tariffs on Canada and Mexico remain on hold for now. U.S. consumer prices saw their largest increase in nearly 18 months, rising 0.5% in January, driven by higher costs for housing, food, and motor vehicle insurance. The inflation spike reinforces the Federal Reserve's cautious stance on rate cuts, with Chair Jerome Powell stating the bank is not quite there yet on reducing rates. The annual inflation rate reached 3%, up from 2.9% in December, fueled by rising grocery prices and energy costs. Prescription drug prices surged by a record 2.5%, while egg prices soared 15.2% due to an avian flu outbreak. The Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics has revealed that U.S. producer prices rose more than expected in January, adding to signs that inflation is picking up again. The producer price index increased by 0.4% last month, following a 0.5% rise in December. Over the past year, producer prices climbed 3.5%, up from 3.3% in December. This data, combined with Wednesday's report showing the biggest jump in consumer prices in nearly 18 months, has pushed back expectations for a Federal Reserve rate cut. Markets now anticipate a possible reduction in September, but some economists believe rate cuts may not happen at all this year. The number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits fell last week, signaling continued strength in the labor market. The Labor Department reported 213,000 initial claims for the week ending February 8, down 7,000 from the previous week. Economists had expected 215,000 claims. While layoffs are low, hiring has slowed. Non-farm payrolls rose by 143,000 jobs in January, with the unemployment rate at 4%. The number of people receiving ongoing jobless benefits also declined to 1.85 million, suggesting some stability in the job market. Eurostat has reported that the Eurozone industrial production fell 1.1% in December, exceeding forecast of a 0.6% decline, as Germany and Italy posted sharp contractions. Output was down 2% year-on-year, driven by an 8% drop in capital goods production. Despite signs of stabilization, the sector remains under pressure from weak Chinese demand, global competition, and new U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminium. Economists warn that redirected Chinese exports could further impact European industry. Official data has reported that Britain's economy unexpectedly expanded by 0.1% in the first quarter of 2024, defying forecast of a 0.1% contraction. December's 0.4% growth helped lift the quarter, making the United Kingdom the best-performing major European economy during the period. However, business investment dropped 3.2% and household spending remained flat, raising concerns over long-term growth prospects. The Bank of England halved its 2025 growth forecast to 0.75%, citing economic contrasts and inflationary pressures.
The growth numbers have come in higher than many expected, but I'm still not satisfied with the level of growth that our economy is achieving, and that's why I am determined to go further and faster in delivering the economic growth and the improvements in living standards that our country deserves. It's not possible to turn around more than a decades of poor economic performance in just a few months. But we are doing what is necessary to bring stability back to the economy, reforming the economy, the planning system, regulation and pensions, to encourage investment in our economy, which is the lifeblood of a successful economy. We need to go further and faster in doing that to turn around our poor growth performance and to make working people better off.
The German Chamber of Commerce and Industry has expected the country's economy to contract by 0.5% in 2025, marking its third consecutive year of decline, the longest downturn in post-war history. It added that high energy costs, rising interest rates, and global competition are weighing on businesses, with 60% citing economic policies as a major risk. Investment and export expectations remain weak, raising concerns over further deindustrialization. Preliminary data from the Federal Statistics Office has shown that Germany's inflation rate remained unchanged at 2.8% year-on-year in January. The figure matches December's rate and aligns with analyst forecasts. The inflation measures harmonized for European Union comparisons suggest price pressures remain stable despite ongoing economic challenges. Google has signed a memorandum of understanding with Poland to accelerate the adoption of artificial intelligence. CEO Sundar Pichai made the announcement on Thursday, saying AI will help drive economic growth and transform key sectors such as cybersecurity, health, and energy. Earlier this week, Pichai attended an AI summit in Paris, where he urged the European Union to ease its AI regulations, arguing that Europe's productivity depends on embracing the technology. Japan's annual wholesale inflation rose to 4.2% in January, marking its highest level in 7 months and the fifth consecutive monthly increase. The surge reinforces market expectations that the Bank of Japan may raise interest rates again this year. The rise in prices was driven by higher costs for agriculture goods, food, textiles, and metals. Energy prices also climbed as government subsidies were phased out. Bank of Japan governor has warned that rising food prices could influence inflation expectations. Nissan and Honda have ended merger discussions that could have created a $60 billion automaker, with Nissan rejecting Honda's proposal to become a subsidiary. The collapse of the deal leaves Nissan in a vulnerable position as it struggles to compete with Chinese EV markets like BYD. Both companies will continue their technology collaboration while Honda explores partnerships beyond Nissan Motors. Meanwhile, Nissan has cut its full-year forecast again, plans to close a Thailand plant by June, and may shut 2 more facilities as it restructures to address ongoing challenges. Minister of Planning, Daniel Mashot, has projected that Egypt's economy will grow by 4% during fiscal year 2024-2025. Speaking at the World Government Summit in Dubai, El Mashot said the government has introduced financial and monetary policies along with structural reforms to strengthen the economy. She emphasized that these measures have improved Egypt's resilience and its ability to withstand future challenges. The World Bank projects a 3.4% economic growth rate for Gulf countries in 2025, rising to 4.1% in 2026, outpacing the MENA region's expected 3.3% growth. Speaking at the World Government Summit in Dubai, World Bank Vice President highlighted the GCC's strong position due to economic diversification, while other regional economies face challenges from conflicts and instability. He also discussed a new partnership between the World Bank and the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative, focusing on water security, resource management, and AI-driven efficiency in desalination and irrigation. OPEC has reaffirmed its outlook for strong global oil demand growth in 2025, maintaining its projection of a 1.45 million barrels per day increase, supported by air and road travel. The group also kept its 2026 forecast at 1.43 million barrels per day, despite uncertainties linked to trade policies. The oil producer group acknowledged that President Donald Trump's trade measures could introduce new market uncertainties, but it does not expect them to significantly impact economic growth. The International Energy Agency has revised its 2025 global oil demand growth forecast upward to 1.1 million barrels per day, citing increased consumptions in India and emerging Asian economies. However, the agency lowered its 2024 demand growth estimate to 870,000 barrels per day from 940,000 barrels per day, reflecting weaker than expected demand. The report highlighted that Chinese consumption remains the primary driver of global demand this year, alongside India and other Asian economies. The IEA warned of market volatility due to U.S. sanctions on Russia and Iran, supply concerns, and trade tensions, but noted no significant impact on global oil supply yet. Oil prices fell more than 1% on Thursday as a potential peace deal between Russia and Ukraine continued to exert downward pressure along with rising crude inventories in the United States. Brent futures were down 1.3% at $74.18 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude dropped 1.4% to $70.40.
OPEC has reaffirmed its forecast for robust oil demand growth in 2025, projecting an increase of 1.45 million barrels per day, supported by air and road travel. The group also maintained its 2026 outlook at 1.43 million barrels per day, despite uncertainties surrounding U.S. trade policies. OPEC noted that it remains to be seen how President Donald Trump's tariff measures will impact market fundamentals, but stated they are not currently expected to materially affect economic growth. Meanwhile, the International Energy Agency warned that Washington's latest sanctions on Russia and Iran could disrupt global oil supply chain, adding another layer of uncertainty to energy markets. However, the IEA noted that oil markets have historically shown resilience in adapting to such challenges. The agency also revised its 2025 demand growth forecast upward to 1.1 million barrels per day, citing increased consumption in India and other Asian economies. However, it lowered its 2024 forecast to 870,000 barrels per day, reflecting weaker than expected growth. Global oil production fell by 950,000 barrels per day in January due to cold weather in North America and reduced output in Nigeria and Libya. Despite this, supply from the Americas remains strong. Russian crude production edged higher last month by around 100,000 barrels per day to 9.2 million barrels per day, despite new U.S. sanctions, with analysts watching for potential workarounds.
Gold prices climbed on Thursday due to escalating concerns about U.S. President Donald Trump's impending tariff plans, which could further strain global trade relations. Spot gold added 0.4% to $2,913.47 per ounce, moving back towards its record peak of $2,942.70 hit on Tuesday. U.S. gold futures firmed 0.4% to $2,941.50. In markets, global shares recorded a semi-collective rise on Thursday as U.S. stocks ticked higher after President Donald Trump said he plans to introduce reciprocal tariffs later in the day. The future for the S&P 500 rose 0.64%, and that for the Dow Jones Industrial Average increased 0.32%. In Europe, France CAC 40 hiked 1.43%, Germany's DAX jumped 1.86%, while Britain's FTSE 100 inched down 0.60%. In Asia, Hong Kong's Hang Seng dipped 0.20%. In Tokyo, the Nikkei 225 index rose 1.28%. Meanwhile, Shanghai Composite Index declined 0.42%. Australia's S&P/ASX 200 tiptoed 0.06%. Joining us from Amman is economist and specialist in oil and energy affairs, Mr. Aimer Shobaki, to discuss the latest developments in the oil market. Mr. Aimer, thank you so much for joining us on the Economic Bulletin. And first off, OPEC has reaffirmed its forecast for strong oil demand growth in 2025 and 2026. Given current macroeconomic conditions, do you believe these projections are realistic?
Yes, I think that OPEC will need to review these projections more than once. Today, we are talking about variables controlling these projections and forecasts, which is the stability of economic growth in India and China, as well as the economic trade war started by President Trump. Where will it lead to? Will it influence the global economy? This is expected with the tariff imposed on different commodities and on different states. Now, regarding the Federal Reserve plans to lower the interest rates, if these plans take place, this will influence the global economy and will reflect the OPEC projections.
Now, Mr. Aimer, how significant is the role of air and road travel in driving demand growth, and could geopolitical or economic factors disrupt this trend?
Yes, the demand on traveling in the summer is more than usual, and we're talking about transportation, which is now 65% of global demand on the oil. 65% of the global oil goes to transportation, whether air, ground, or sea transportation. Also, with the Trump steps to lower the dependency on green economy and is directed more to electricity transportation and AV vehicles. These vehicles will depend on fossil fuels more.
With the United States and European Union pushing for energy transitions, how sustainable is OPEC's long-term demand outlook beyond 2026?
I think it's different between the OPEC forecasts and the Energy Agency regarding the peak oil demand. OPEC expects that the peak will continue after 2045, but the Energy Agency projects that the demands on oil and gas will be in peak by 2035. There is a lot of differences in the findings and projections of the two agencies on how the world accepts the green transformation and also the preparedness to have the alternative to fossil fuels.
Now, Mr. Aimer, the International Energy Agency warns that Washington's latest sanctions on Russia and Iran could disrupt global oil supply chains. How do you see these sanctions impacting market stability in the coming months?
I think that the new Trump administration is keen on not imposing restrictive sanctions on the Iranian oil, which is evident recently. They have restricted the sanctions on the Iranian oil imports, but we are starting to see a solution to the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, which will be a beginning to solve the Russian oil problem, which was and the Ukrainian oil which was surrounded by the Russian forces. I think the sanctions on Russia and Iran will mean lowering the supply in the markets with the big reserve at the OPEC. OPEC will be able to provide an alternative for the Iranian oil.
Now, the Russian crude production edged up despite these sanctions. What potential workarounds do you think Moscow might be employing, and how effective are these sanctions in curbing Russian exports?
These sanctions had a great influence on the Russian imports. Regarding in terms of price, the Russian supply in the markets, and also in terms of controlling the shadow fleet of Russia. All of these are factors that impacted the supply in the markets. Also, the sanctions impacted the exploration processes and searching for oil and oil production in the Russian interior. That's why we have witnessed a decline in oil production for Russia, which is 0.4%, which is less than expected.
Thank you, Mr. Aimer Shobaki, for your insights and for all the information you provided us with. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Economic Bulletin on Q News. That's all for now. Here's a wrap-up of what we've covered. Trump to announce new reciprocal tariffs Thursday, details unknown. Eurozone industrial production falls 1.1% in December. And Nissan and Honda and $60 billion merger talks as Nissan rejects subsidiary status. This concludes our economic bulletin for today. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.